Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, One Piece chapter 1070 is out. If you guys haven't checked out that chapter yet, I suggest that you do so because I will be spoiling you. But now that you have, let's begin. The title of the chapter is The Most Powerful Beings. Maybe YouTube has corrupted me for too long, but I couldn't help thinking like, damn, that's like the perfect clickbait title. So the Germa cover story continues and we see the members of Mads in the past and my god, what a bunch of nerds. Caesar is definitely Wallowitz from Big Bang Theory. And I guess at some point in time, Judge Vinsmoke did some steroids, because that's like, buddy. But having them all grouped up as they are, just, you can't help but to think like this was originally a pacifist sort of science organization. What the hell happened? Feel like everybody sans Vegapunk got the bad future. Also pacifist organization, and in this cover story set in the past, they're all carrying guns, so. But yeah, there's one character here facing the other direction. We don't know who they are. Some woman, it appears, and people are asking who this is. Feels obvious to me, but maybe it isn't obvious. I thought it was Sora, Judge's wife. Sora has to have at least some scientific knowledge because she devised a way to interfere with Judge's plans for his children, ultimately making Sanji human, supposedly. He also had to meet her at some point in time and they should be of similar age. Makes a lot of sense to me for this to be Sora. Then we get into the chapter itself. We continue fight Luffy, Sentomaru, as well as Lucci. Lucci's jaw, my god. Measure that shit, 90 degrees. So he shanked Sentomaru, but Sentomaru was still alive. A lot of this doesn't really matter. Essentially, my impression at the end of last chapter came true. We just had to go through most of this chapter to get there. Oda seemed to want to create more time to show off Gear 5th Luffy, which was incredible. We'll talk about this in more depth. And explain some stuff, but by the end of the chapter, Sentomaru is defeated again, so pretty much where we left off at the end of last chapter, as well as Lucci got control of the Seraphim, again, the impression that I had at the end of last chapter. The only real difference is that now the Strats are in some sort of different location, and Kizaru is here. But I'm not taking anything away from the chapter because it was a lot of fun. I just really enjoy seeing Luffy go off. He feels like a Yonko. Do you guys feel the same thing of just in total control? His powers are literally mind-blowing. Broken to an obscene degree. Got a really cool video in the works about this that I think that a lot of you are going to enjoy. Basically, Luffy's powers are top 1. I honestly can't wait for him just to show up places and meet people, show off his new powers, and just be awesome, basically. He is officially a force of nature. And once again, he totally mops the floor with Lucci. I wouldn't really describe it like Luffy's fight against Bellamy pre-time skip. It kind of serves a similar role, but Oda has the grace to let Lucci have some dignity, I guess. Part of that was, I think, a kind of asinine decision for Sentomaru to tell Luffy to leave with Vegapunk. I mean, real talk, okay? Luffy and the crew are by far the strongest people here. They should have just obliterated Cypherpole. That's what should have happened. That's the way to keep Vegapunk the safest. You spend the chapter hyping up the Seraphim as the most powerful beings, and you let Sentomaru try to solo Cypherpole when he's already been shanked. Just kind of a shake your head moment. But I'm not going to complain too much because I'm here for the drama. Oda's about to establish exactly what the Seraphim are, exactly where they stand with the Straw Hats, and yeah, I'm a little scared. Quite honestly. At the end of the chapter, Kizaru says on paper that should make for a straightforward escape, but boy are they in for a surprise if they think it'll be easy, and I am intrigued. A Navy encirclement seems likely, but Oda is really creative. We're in the New World, we have no idea what's around this island, or strange phenomenon that he could include. I'm just kind of expecting something wild. You best believe I'm ready to see what Oda has cooked up. But anyway, let's not go all over the place. Sentomaru thought that he blocked Lucci's attack, but clearly didn't. It felt like kind of a minor mystery. Maybe an evolution of some of Lucci's techniques that Oda will explain later. I also feel like part of the chapter reaffirmed that Luffy is not in total control when he goes Gear 5th. He did like a whip technique. Obviously, he's in no threat or no danger from Lucci, but he was also spitting like the Tasmanian devil and just sort of went off screen. Although when he came back up from the floor with his mouth, that was so freaking cool. Rashomon, anyone? But anyway, we got to see some of the other Seraphims a little bit more clearly in this chapter, specifically Mihawk and Boa Hancock. I thought it was funny. I was like, Mihawk is so overpowered with his sword alone that I'm not even going to bother giving him a devil fruit. which in part made me really sad. I really hope that he does have a fruit. At the same time, it's like, Well, yeah. And it's pretty freaky because they're still just children. And that was emphasized in the chapter, so by the time that they become adults, geez. And honestly, I expect them to become adults. I think that their aging has been accelerated. My personal theory, I don't think that, for instance, the Boa Hancock looks to be about like 12, I guess? But I don't actually think that the Seraphim is 12 years old, and we learned from the Vinsmoke with the cloning that they can accelerate aging. That's a thing, so that's just my expectation. Anyway, it's crazy how human the Seraphim are. S-Snake honestly made me sad that they're puppets that can be controlled. Makes it pretty clear how messed up this technology is. It was also pretty weird to see 12-year-old Boa Hancock's love fruit work. I'm just gonna roll with the headcanon that people just see her and think she's cute in like a child way. But seeing her like this, I imagine at some point in time, even though she's being controlled right now, that we'll see the human side of her again, and it has me thinking about the real Boa Hancock. Is there going to be a difference in personality between S-Snake and the real one? Jinbei says something to this effect like, it's cool to see a nice and kind version of you. Oda may not devote the energy here, but the real Boa Hancock had a very traumatic childhood because of slavery, you know? And overall, I think it probably made her a little meaner than she would have been otherwise. Nature versus nurture sort of thing. So anyway, Luffy was washing Lucci and then decided to leave to protect Vegapunk. They go to this thing called the Vacuum Rocket, which seems to be some sort of subway with an egghead. Well, on this thing, Bonnie wakes up, and I think it makes it more clear that Oda's whole plan with her was to make sure that she was down and out while S-Bear was around. I still think that becomes something. She turns around really confused because Luffy is aged up quite a bit. This happens so far every time he gets out of Gear 5th. I do wonder somewhat as to, is this just an energy exhaustion thing or is it more? This whole time though, I'm really just wondering where Zoro and Brook are. Are they just watching this from the Thousand Sunny like, is this normal? I'm just trying to imagine where Zoro could get lost to. That would be productive. But yeah, as far as I can gather, the situation is that most everybody, with the exception of Zoro and Brook, are within the lab. It's somewhat fortified. They're bunkered up inside there, and Cypherpole is waiting on the outside. I don't have a clear understanding of how they intend to escape, particularly with more marine forces on the way. Right now, Cypherpole is trying to block all the exits, so I assume that there are many of them, which will spread out Cypherpole's forces. I guess the Strats plus Vegapunk will group up, choose one of these exits, and just smash their way through, and then aim for the Thousand Sunny. But it seems like a lot of setup for something that doesn't feel all that exciting currently. Could be that once they get on the ship, they're sitting ducks. I mean, that's a possibility, right? You get on the ship, cool, everyone's there, Vegapunk's there, but what do you do then? The impression that I have, which is very likely to be wrong, you guys should know that, but I kind of have Shiki, Roger, Ed War in my mind. That sort of event. So we just need the massive storm, which takes out all the Navy. So I guess I'm pretty much ready for Dragon to show up. But I would be doing a disservice if I didn't say something stupid and crazy. If ever there was a time to go to the moon, the time is now. You're on Vegapunk's island. Does he have a rocket? You bet he has a rocket, okay? You're surrounded by Marines. The way out is up. Just so that we're very clear, my mental image is all of Egghead is the rocket. And you guys think I'm joking. But no, seriously, I don't want to spend forever talking about this, talking in circles, but the ship is outside, I assume closer to where Lucci is. They didn't bother to defeat him. They left Sentomaru to fight him alone so that they could go inside the lab, away from the ship. They're on an island, so they need some way of traveling over water. I mean, is Vegapunk gonna pull out a different ship? Doesn't make too much sense to me, because, need to get back on the Thousand Sunny. That's the Strat ship, so this is kind of weird. Kizaru with other Marines is coming, and with the comments at the end of the chapter, it's pretty much suggested that they're going to arrive. That's the impression I got. So what the hell is gonna happen? Not meaning to be a nitpicking bastard, and I may just be dumb. It's happened before. It'll happen again. But I'm not sure that I have a clear picture of what my expectations should be. The Strats obviously needed to get Atlas into Dr. Vegapunk's care so that they could fix her. We've obviously got some movement with Bonnie now that she's awake. She's gonna have a confrontation with Vegapunk about Kuma, returning Kuma to who he normally is. I expect something to happen there, some knowledge. Obviously, we should still be asking questions about the real Kuma, who is going somewhere, probably here, I would guess, but we don't know. Still praying for Dragon. But I think it's Jinbei who says that they're gonna leave Atlas to Vegapunk, which means that likely they're about to do something, so they're in the lab. I assume that now we just continue the fight with Lucci and CP0. because one way or another you need to get back to the ship. But of course the plan is to do that with Vegapunk, who's about to fight with Bonnie and is also in the process of fixing Atlas. So it all kind of feels to me like a time sink. Sometimes you just gotta sit and wait and allow for Oda to do what he does. But yeah, let's make sure that we mention everything that I want to talk about in the chapter. I thought an interesting comment from Vegapunk that he never had any intention of betraying the Marines, even though that's what their fear was. I'm taking him at face value here, that that's the truth, which is interesting. I always sort of assumed that as a sort of revolutionary type character with ties to Dragon that he was intending on betraying them. That doesn't stop him from having some sort of backup plan. I mean, look, big brain dude, I'm assuming he's planning for every multiverse. But yeah, the theory that I'm referring to here is the Vegapunk Order 66 deal, where he has a switch that he could flip that would make him controller of all the Pacifista. Although I'm really liking this idea that Bonnie ends up being the switch, intentionally or not, since there's a little bit of actual Kuma in all of them. Bonnie becomes queen of the Pacifista, trumping all the technology that they have, which determines who is in control. I also want to draw your attention to the fact that Luffy was able to create glasses out of his powers, and we're not going to talk in depth about it, but I think it's really important. And of course the main talking point of the chapter, which we somehow haven't talked about yet, is Vegapunk describing how to recreate the various kinds of devil fruit. He says that the zone type fruits are the easiest. That's the ones that they can create the best. For Paramecia, they need the blood or the lineage factor of the user of the devil fruit. With Logias, he hasn't been too successful. It's really interesting, and I've seen other people bring this up as well, because we assumed that the lasers for the Pacifista was related to Kizaru, who is a Logia, so I'm not sure how that jives or not. But it may simply just be a laser. I mean, Frankie has a laser as well. I doubt he has bits of Kizaru within him, so that could just be where the community was wrong. Essentially, bits of Kizaru aren't within the Pacifista. Vegapunk has just recreated Kizaru's powers with technology, i.e. it is just a laser. And then mythical zones are really difficult and sometimes require particular circumstances to recreate. I think that the biggest reveal among all of these things that isn't outright stated is that we have been misled, bamboozled, we have been bungled. Vegapunk talks about recreating zone devil fruits like it isn't a problem. And up until this point, the only devil fruit that we know that the world government has actually recreated is Momonosuke's fruit, which was a mythical zone. And that went pretty well. So basically the government has smile fruits, but they're probably better than Caesar's variation. And these have been nowhere. Totally kept secret. Vegapunk also gives us this line: there's also Caesar's smile fruit method, however I consider that unacceptable, which reminds you that Vegapunk is a perfectionist. So blowing off the whole zone thing is like, this is easy. We could very easily see that the world government can perfectly recreate zone devil fruits, like almost like the real thing, which just makes you reevaluate everything that you know. You remember, back in Eni's lobby, when the guy that's here, Lucci, as well as Kaku, got fruits that Spandam was real sketch about how he got. Those could have straight up been fake ones. The only real counterpoint is that Vegapunk seems unclear as to whether such fruits can be awakened, but we also don't know whether he knows where these fruits have gone to who they've gone, so he may not know that Lucci has one of the ones that he developed. Again, when Spandam gave them the fruits, he was pretty sketch about it. And yes, we are ignoring Khalifa. But really, the only thought experiment that you need is, do you think that Momonosuke is going to be able to awaken his fake government fruit? And the answer to that is yes. So therefore, yes. At some point, we have to see some of the government's attempts to create zone devil fruits, and here I mean the regular ones. And then at the same time, we will almost definitely see that they have the ability to awaken, as this conversation is coming up now and that we're surrounded with people whose fruits that we saw get in the story, etc. Like, this is the time to do that, I feel like. But anyway, it seems pretty telegraphed that the technology surrounding the creation of artificial fruits is going to progress probably a little bit more, though not entirely sure how much time in the story we have left. But I would just love to see, obviously they had to test some of these fake fruits on somebody, like for instance Vegapunk's attempts at Logia. I'd just love to see somebody show up who just has really funky devil fruit abilities that are wrong in some way, But anyway, we've spent a lot of time talking about artificial fruits, how they're synthesized. It's been a huge topic of conversation within the community for a long time because of Smile. But essentially the idea is that zone fruits are easier to recreate. Same thing with Caesar. Caesar smiles were exclusively zones because they actually have the lineage factors of what makes a creature whatever the hell it is. When you get to more intangible things, you could see how that would complicate the problem. I'm not going to link the video because some of these are very old, but when we go to the Sad Factory in Punk Hazard, the speculation essentially was that they take the souls of animals and it creates a sort of green substance. It was colored green. And I compared this with Brook in his soul form, which is also green, basically speculating that they kill animals, take their souls, put it into a vacuum, and then they take this substance and pump it into the water where they grow the smile fruit trees, and the trees suck up the soul water. And now we have Vegapunk describing green blood as the most effective way to recreate paramecia powers. So I guess to say something more substantial here, the running theory is that lineage factors and souls are very interrelated. It's basically the thing that makes life. For animals, this is relatively easy to obtain because just like humans, you can discover their genetic code. But what's the genetic code of the love fruit? I presume that Vegapunk is actually pretty close to discovering how to figure this out. But until it's perfected, the best way is to take the lineage factor of the love human, already altered by the real devil fruit. And then just like the smile fruit trees suck up this soul water, Vegapunk, green blood or different version of soul water pumps through the veins of the Seraphim. All of this makes sense. So the only real thing that we're learning here, in my opinion, is that this technique does not quite work the same for Logias and for mythical zones. And for me, it confirms that these classifications of devil fruits are still really important and special. But I personally suspect that the most difficult element of Logias to recreate is the intangible body. From the moment the Logias were introduced, that was the power which really separated them in comparison to the other fruits. Now, if this fruit is actually recreated at any point in the story, and I'm skeptical, but if that happened, it would be an absolute game changer. If you could give Logia fruits to your foot soldiers, it would essentially require anybody who fights them to have hockey. The scales wouldn't tip, they would implode. Maybe it's for this reason alone that Oda said no. But anyway, that's all I had to say today. I thought that this was a good chapter, but it feels more like information dump with context added around it to buy time. But of course, curious as to what you guys think, whether you noticed something from the chapter that I might have missed, just share your thoughts. Remember to check out my book, The Booms Volume 1, links in the description as well as pinned in the comments, and if you guys have a chance to read it, please leave a review. But yeah, like, subscribe, click the bell to be notified, join the squad, and as always, have a wonderful day.